My life as a mechanic started for me in Waukomis, Oklahoma, standing around in the back of my grandfather's Ford garage, hoping that one of the mechanics would share just a little piece of information about how to fix a car. Those were the formative years. Well, I suppose my fascination with classic cars has never faded. Now I can't believe it. I've been here 40 years at the same location working on old cars, and I can't wait to get to work every day just to learn something new and to share that with someone in the shop. I've heard some fantastic stories in my shop. Think about the car that you first drove to high school, or that pickup that you hauled hay in when you were growing up. Corvettes, MGs, T-Birds, GTOs, pickups, Broncos, and Jeeps, just to name a few. I never lost my enthusiasm for classic cars. And I hope that over the years that I'll be able to help you with your cars and teach you something about how to work on your automobile. My name is Barry Wilson. Family man, classic car enthusiast, certified mechanic, and your guide under the hood of your favorite classic car.
Hey, Barry Wilson, Wilson Auto Repair. This is a 351 or a Windsor 351 that's been bored out to 427, and I think we're somewhere in the 500 to 600 horsepower range, which is a lot for one of these engines, not compared to some of the newer cars, but that's a lot to put in a 79 Bronco. So these guys over here are cleaning up the engine bay so we can finally paint the rest of the frame rails and then lay this engine in there and start the process of assembling all this together with this engine that's going to have huge horsepower and make it a lot of fun for this customer to drive. You can see we've put a belt kit on it. Didn't that look nice? It's all kind of a polished aluminum with a painted insert of black on it, and all the pulleys all line up and everything looks great. So it's going to be a great project. We have dropped the old motor out, or pulled it out, and replaced it with this 427 approximately 600 horse V8 engine to give this Bronco a little bit of get up and go. And you can see that we've already installed the engine. Then we've come back and installed a nice March system for the belts. That's the name of the product, is March, and they sell a kit where you can get a chrome alternator, a polished compressor. That's the AC compressor there. And then here's the belt tensioner right here. And over here's the power steering pump, and you can see how nice that all fits. It comes in one big old box, and you just take it apart and follow the instructions, put it all together, and you end up with something that looks that nice. Now we're putting a MSD distributor in it, but we're not putting a 6AL box in it. Now what's a 6AL box? Well, that's a box that, actually I think we are on this one, we're putting a 6AL box, so it's a high horsepower motor. The box fits over in another area that's remote, but it wires into the distributor, and every time one of these wires, or these terminals right here, sends spark out of that terminal to a spark plug, the box makes it spark multiple times. Normally it would only spark once, kind of like when you click your little thing to light your barbecue grill. You get one click and it lights off. So we get one click normally here, but with a motor like this we may want to do multiple clicks on the compression stroke or whenever we want to ignite the gas. So we add a 6AL box. So if you have a high horsepower motor, you may want to look into that. We use MSD distributors, and you can see we've installed that. Then we build a custom box or bracket right here for the ignition coil, and We are now in the process of installing wiring. You can see over here we've installed the air conditioning outlet right there. We're going to modify the dash, change out the interior. We have painted the entire engine bay a gloss black, and underside of the hood was already painted gloss black. Didn't need to do that. And we are installing brand new brake lines, a rebuilt master and brake booster, and a new steering gearbox along with heavy duty steering. That steering is called a Clydesdale, and it's really, really big. It'll carry the weight of all these trucks and those huge tires and make it steer better and not have that road wander that you usually get with a four-wheel drive vehicle that was made during these days. This carburetor has been installed, and you can see it's not the old silver. It's kind of I'd call it mauve or a gray or a dark color that kind of makes it look cool. And you can see we've installed good looking valve covers that got Ford Racing on them. All this wiring will be cleaned up, all these hoses will be cleaned up, and it'll really look sharp when we're done. The radiator's been installed, and you can see over here in front we put the AC compressor. We plumbed all this in. We made brackets to hold the compressor. Rather than using those jicky little brackets they send with this part, and we put holes in them right here for more ventilation to let more air flow through the radiator. On the other side we'll put in the electric fan for the radiator and wire it up with a heavy duty relay. Then let's go over here and look at the transmission. And that'd be right over here. And you can see we just got a shipment of parts in. This is a Ford transmission. The designation for this is C6. Back in the day, they made two of these transmissions throughout the 70s and all the way back into the 60s. Most of the Mustangs had a C4. A lot of the pickups had C6s. If you want to know the difference, the C6 is all one piece, whereas the C4, this part called the bell housing, bolts on and off of the transmission, and that's how you can tell the difference. Some of the C4s have different locations for the dipsticks, which kind of indicate when they were produced. Then, you know, if you got a four-wheel drive vehicle, guess what? You got to be able to put it in four-wheel drive, so you have to have a transfer case, and this end of the transmission will mate up inside this transfer case once we do the seals on it, and this is what gives you four-wheel drive. This connects to the front axle, and over here this connects to the rear axle, and the drive shaft goes right here and right there to make the connection. Right here's the flywheel. We put a stall converter in here. That's what this looks like right here. That's the torque converter that transmits the power from the engine to the transmission. What stall means is there's a little bit of slippage in there, so when you come up to a stoplight, the transmission won't try to stay engaged, kind of like if you took your foot off the clutch instead of pushing it to the floor when you're at a stoplight. It allows that transmission to slip a little bit so that there's not an engagement between the two of them, and it's hard to keep the truck running. As soon as you step on the gas and you get somewhere around 2,500 RPMs, this torque converter will kick in, the truck will move, and that 600 horsepower ought to get to those tires and make it a lot of fun to drive. I'm Barry Wilson, Wilson Auto Repair. Between all the noise, hit subscribe or like, or go to my website, wilsonauto.com. I got so much of this stuff working, I don't even know what it is. So we want to help you. That's the main thing. So if you have any questions, get in touch with me. You can get in touch with me through my website.